All right. You know, dinosaurs are in the news this week. We have dinosaurs from the legacy financial system. We have dinosaurs in the gasoline shortages. We have gasoline shortages. We have, oh yeah, the energy FUD.
Oh, yeah. That's the big news of the week for sure. You got suddenly energy concerns. And it's the latest FUD being thrown at Bitcoin. And so far, nobody has succeeded in stopping Bitcoin with all kinds of fear, uncertainty, and doubt FUD. The energy FUD is easily disproved as malarkey, as nonsense. It's silly.
Right. You know, speaking of FUD, that means, of course, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We also have FOMO, which, you know, I was typing out this week, and what happened is the autocorrect from Apple, you know, on my Apple iPhone, the FOMO autocorrected to GIMP. So, so I thought that was a useful one for the whole, you know, the altcoin sort of mania that was driven by Elon Musk. And when you look at that catalog of shitcoins that are, you know, in the on the exchanges, and you see all those symbols, right? Usually 3 letters, sometimes 4, like Doge. It really stood out to me in this series of tweets I'm going to read about Elon Musk, okay, and what could have prompted this bizarre statement from them that he's no longer going to accept Bitcoin for purchase of your Tesla because of the environmental damage it does and the carbon emissions. So Elizabeth Stein wrote, Tesla makes most of its money from RECs, not cars. Last year, it made $1.58 billion from sales of RECs, which are, you know, re-emission credits. So they made $1.58 billion from sales of RECs to gas-powered auto companies, which must offset their CO2 emissions. Tesla has never been more profitable without REC sales to bolster its auto margins, but that's about to change because last week, and this was covered widely, you could see this last week, just Google it and you'll find stories about Fiat Chrysler, which is part of Stellantis now, so they merged with Fiat. But the CEO told Le Point last week that it will meet its carbon emission rules this year. That means it won't need to buy carbon credits from Tesla anymore. Fiat Chrysler accounts for $2.4 billion of Tesla carbon credit sales from 2019 to date, and 55% of sales since 2008. So that's about to wind down. And therefore, she's suggesting that Tesla is going to have to pivot to renewable fuel credit markets because there's some new coins, there's some new credits about to emerge. I'm going to go over the list of them, but what do you have to say about that stream so far, Max?
Right. Well, this is the whole thing. The entire company depends on government handouts. It's not different than Warren Buffett, who survives on free money from the Fed. Tesla survives on free money from the government as well in the form of these credits. And these markets we've been covering these markets for many years. They are another way to give banks free money to process these credits. You know, the food stamps are processed by JP Morgan. The bailouts are processed by JP Morgan, and Warren Buffett's the recipient. These carbon credits are processed by the big banks, and goes through Tesla, and Elon Musk is a beneficiary. So he's a welfare bum. And the cars stink. They were ranked dead last in reliability recently by JD Power and Associates, or somebody who does all these types of work. I saw a video where one was stripped and taken apart, and it's like literally hamster poop in there and all kinds of garbage that they just stuff into the wheel wells, and they try. It's like buying a Tinker toy. And they're not safe. They constantly run into people. The autopilot's broken, and this guy is a lunatic.
So then somebody responded to that thread with a correction, and in addition to some of these acronyms that exist to plunder, it's kind of like I'm going to go through this list, and it reminds me of all those proof of stake coins and pre-mine coins essentially, and it's just balance sheet shenanigans that hide the fact that basically they're plundering the taxpayer, in my opinion. This person, AG123, responded, I think you're somewhat correct, but also missing a lot. RECs are produced from only Tesla's solar assets, Elon Musk's solar assets. What they're referring to are the ZEV credits, which are zero re-emission vehicle credits, but also their charging stations are the most valuable ones, which are called LCFS, which are low carbon fuel standard credits. So each LCFS credit represents 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide reduced. US and global markets account for all of this. Now they want to participate in something called RINs, RINS. So these are new credits being issued by the EPA. And they go on to say, I agree to the extent that the crypto is a very bad look for their benefit of emissions markets, but think your direct link here is not likely accurate. I would guess they simply decided the negative look on the ESG front of using crypto was not worth the risk to their revenue. ESG is this new environmental, social, and corporate governance thing.
Right. ESG is the rebottling of the old wine called social responsible investing, SRI. All these acronyms that you just mentioned are derivatives of carbon credits. It's just like Goldman Sachs will say that we're creating a credit default swap, reverse collateralized by a mortgage obligation bond, which is collateralized by some other derivative based on an inverted yield curve and its value at risk. And it's just gobbledygook used to get extract free money from the Fed. And Elon Musk in the same camp as free money extractor from the U.S. taxpayer primarily. And these are just carbon credit derivatives. They're meant to obfuscate. It's accounting fraud. This guy is a major fraudster. He makes Charles Ponzi, would blush if he were still around with this lunatic in charge. And the whole thing about energy usage in Bitcoin is completely misframed because, and I'll tell you why. And I want everyone watching this right now to understand a basic point. If you really want to understand Bitcoin, if you want to understand what this FUD is all about, if you want to really avail yourself to the beauty and the aesthetic genius that is Bitcoin, Bitcoin is designed to do one thing: kill central banks. It's hard-coded in the Genesis block, this very reference. It's designed elegantly to kill central banks. When central banks are killed, global energy usage goes from 160,000 terawatt hours, cut by 3/4. Okay? I'll say it again. 160,000 terawatt hours used right now on planet Earth gets cut by 3/4 once you kill the central banks. No other coin, no fiat, not even gold can do this. So by putting energy and attention into an altcoin, you're delaying that Bitcoin epiphany, the Bitcoin singularity. And think, when I see all the things that are happening around the world, it's become a violent world. Remember, Bitcoin monetizes peace. Fiat money monetizes hate and war. So this guy's literally put his thumb into the path of peace because he's an egomaniacal guy who self-admittedly is on the spectrum and has a very kind of aggressive stage mother who's constantly putting him out there. He's got mommy issues. And as a result, there's a lot of problems. A lot of problems he's getting in the way of solving with this egomaniacal guy. It's sad. It's very, very sad.
So apparently he's got a lot of these ZEV credits. Remember, I told you zero re-emission vehicles. And that's the one that Fiat Chrysler is no longer going to be buying because they now have their own electric vehicle and are selling well. So that market is over. Apparently, it's crashing, and it's operated by California, but 9 other states as well. And so he has these bags on his balance sheet of Tesla. They have about $2 billion worth. And again, just Google that, look it up. There's some articles about how those might actually be worthless now. So he's got $2 billion worth of these, government issued shit coins, essentially.
Right, it is a shit coin. That's where I learned about shit coins, is government issued derivatives in the carbon credit market, shit coins, so that's exactly what's going on. But he doesn't understand Bitcoin. He doesn't understand markets. He doesn't understand price discovery, and he's become a real liability for the potential for human survival as a species. I mean, I realize he's trying to get to Mars because probably subconsciously he realizes he's enabling the destruction of planet Earth and the survivability of humans, and he wants to get to Mars somehow with his mom. They're going to recreate a new civilization, those two. Think about that. Wow, what a disaster that would be.
And and again, he tweeted, working with Doge devs to improve system transaction efficiency, potentially promising. Of course, there are no Doge devs.
There are no Doge devs.
But that's what you can see as well. His milieu is carbon credits, shit coins issued by the government to obfuscate the fact that basically taxpayers are funding his billion-dollar lifestyle. But also that these schemes like the Fed, all of these command and control systems, like these command and control single point of failure coins, that they don't actually know what they're doing. Like the same thing could be said of the Fed. We got some Doge devs, we've got some dollar devs that are going to go fix the supply and sort out this economic catastrophe.
Right. Well, that's exactly what they say. They say, we're going to create quantitative easing. I mean, which is the equivalent of we're going to hire more devs to come in here and put a scheme together called quantitative easing. It's debt monetization, which is the recipe for disaster, has been for 100 years, but we're going to call it something different. We're going to call carbon credits something different. We're going to call social responsible investing something different. We're going to just keep redoing the same mistake, doubling down, tripling down, print, war, violence, social unrest, poverty, inflation, starvation, deprivation, opiate overdose, fiat money printing. You're doing it, central banks. You're doing it, central banks. You're doing it, central banks. You're the genocidal maniac. Bitcoin kills central banks. That's what it's designed for. It's in the Genesis block. Elon Musk is getting in the way of the Bitcoin singularity. And it's really sad because the amount that he's delaying the singularity is causing human suffering on an unparalleled scale. This guy is a massive liability at this point.
Another thing that happens when these altcoins, let's call them altcoins so as not to upset the algorithm of YouTube, or poo coins, let's call it all these poo coins. One thing they always do to pretend they're fair, because remember what it's been happening especially since 2008, but it really started earlier, that of this injustice of the economic system, the monetary system, right, is the Cantillon effect. And the fact that people have been noticing this and commenting on it, and the unrest is starting, what do? They started airdropping US dollars to most Americans, right? We're being airdropped money to obfuscate from the fact of the illegitimacy of the system and to restore faith in it. And that usually when a poo coin does that, it kind of bumps a little bit and everybody's like, yeah, and then everybody dumps. Well, Stan Druckenmiller was on CNBC this week, and he said a lot. I mean, there's a lot to talk about there, but he did say 5 years ago, I said crypto was a solution in search of a problem. Well, now the problem has been clearly identified. It's Jerome Powell and the rest of the world's central bankers. There's a lack of trust. Don't trust, verify, of course, right? And that's he basically is pointing to Bitcoin as the possible solution to this. It is the solution, and he's recognizing that more and more. We're watching him be orange pilled. He mentions that he used to be a bond vigilante, but the bond vigilantes have been killed because of the Fed intervening in the markets. Just like, Ethereum is a good one to look at in terms of constant intervention in the market and forking and changing and the algorithm and, just capricious nature of who they decide to bail out, who, what thefts get saved and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Well, he's providing cover for every scammer in the world. And,
Elon Musk?
Yeah. Which is really sad, because we're on the cusp of the singularity and we're on the cusp of peace breaking out. And here's this egomaniacal psychopath who wants to come in at the last minute and do his little fandango dance. And then look at me, look at me, look at me. I mean, he makes Peter Schiff look, emotionally stable by comparison. Really. I mean, he makes, look, we just got this, by the way. These are the,
it's a Bitcoin grenade.
It's a Bitcoin grenade. It got two
Bitcoin
colors.
is the meteor. Or is that an asteroid? No, I think it would be a meteor. That's the grenade.
That's the grenade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cloaks, crypto cloaks, I think it's called.
Crypto Cloak sent that over. So we've got some Bitcoin grenades. That's the thing that's going to rip apart the system, as like they're the dinosaurs living on fossil fuels and an absence of innovation, by the way. I mean, look at the fact that there were electric cars already like 100 years ago, and instead they decided to, because of command and control intervention in the economy, they decided to go with gasoline powered cars and spew all their carbon emissions, and to get to Walmart to buy some goods shipped in across the oceans from China. So, I mean, the entire fiat system incentivizes just waste, right? It's almost all waste.
Right. Of that 160,000 terawatt hours per year in energy, 60% is wasted.
Yeah.
60% is wasted. Okay, so having carbon credits is a bailout for Elon Musk, and it doesn't address this problem whatsoever. Replacing central banks, because that energy is driven by fiat money in the petrodollar, as we've explained over and over again. And by replacing central banks, you are going to drop global energy usage by 3/4. Okay, that's how you get a species-saving reduction in carbon, is with Bitcoin. It's the only way. It's designed to do that. It's at $1 trillion in market cap. It needs to get to 10, 20, 30 trillion. And, guys like Elon Musk, it's so sad. He's like the devil. I mean, I hate to be so, put in such stark terms, but he's literally Lucifer at this point, coming down at the last minute to stop humanity from getting this species-saving, central bank killing, hardest money ever invented, distributed, and getting the market cap to $10 trillion. It's really, really sad. And there's his mom with his pitchfork. Come on, Elon, get on stage, do it for me. And whatever those two get on with, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it.
Well, for me personally, I feel like I've been around in Bitcoin since 2011, and I've seen loads and loads of FUD. I've seen like, it's going to destroy the world. It's going to, central banks are going to kill it. Governments are going to kill it. China's going to kill it. All these things. Like it's gone through every single wave of FUD. This is the last FUD standing. And obviously, I think they're really targeting the financial angle to that, which is that these ESG funds, which are, basically guiding a lot of trillions and trillions of dollars of investment funds. And, what the US media does now with this whole social justice warrior sort of movement and stuff like that is performance, right? Rather than actual action. So they don't want to change a corrupt system. They just want to distract you with some
they're LARPing.
Yeah, they're LARPing and pretending that they're like, I mean, all of these ESG funds, like you can see, look them up online. Some of them, like they're investing in just human rights abuses, all sorts of damage, biogas, which is like destroying the Amazon. You could see the videos of children being ripped from their homes in the Amazon.
Right.
Like
so
that.
we had two corporate events. You had the annual event at Berkshire Hathaway. They voted down all ESG initiatives. We had the annual event at British Petroleum. They voted down all ESG initiatives. So here's two major players in the carbon business, run by two guys and two corporations, two entities that are run by fiat money, that are constantly on the take. BP, without the bailouts, remember, they would have gone out of business long ago, but they just take that money from the UK taxpayer and everyone around the world. Gimme, 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 gimme.
And American taxpayer,
They
by the way.
take it all. They just take it all. They take all that fiat money and they cause violence, war, deprivation,
But
starvation.
look at all the wars going on right now.
Right. That's all fiat money driven. BP, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, they're all in the same game, whether it's carbon credit, derivative manipulation by Musk, whether it's accounting fraud on Wall Street, manipulation of stocks by Buffett, whether it's greenwashing by BP. You know, there's their logo, the green sunflower. It's so beautiful at BP, isn't it? They love planet Earth while they knife it in the gut and watch it bleed out for a nickel because they're sick.
And so, you know, I was going to say, too, with this gasoline shortage, which is just, you know, that entropy and disintegration and deglobalization we've been talking about. But the remarkable thing is, like, the last I looked, the gasoline stations, you know, petrol stations down in Miami, which doesn't even use the Colonial Pipeline, are 50% of them are out of gasoline because everybody's like FOMOing into the, you know, pumping as much gas as they can, bringing containers down and stuff like that. And that reminded me of these Dogecoin people who are like chasing, you know, Elon Musk's tweets into a coin that just, there's no shortage of Doge, right?
No, it's unlimited.
There will
unlimited
never
supply.
be a supply shortage. And yet people are like, where's my bags? Where's my plastic bags? I'm going to fill it up with some Dogecoin. I'm going to fill it up with Dogecoin.
Yeah, they're popping out their false eyeballs and filling the eye sockets with gasoline and Dogecoin, thinking that somehow that's going to save them from the Bitcoin singularity. If you're not right with Satoshi, you're going to get wiped out, you know, faster than the dinosaurs. It's going to be a cataclysmic event. You and your family are going to be on the street picking nuts out of squirrel shit, trying to survive if you don't get right with Satoshi right now.
Right. But I mean, everybody's been looking at these videos and photos from the past week of people. I mean, the plastic bag woman was actually 2 years ago from Mexico, but the plastic bags, there are people that are taking Tupperware bowls.
Sure.
There's a person with a Hummer. Of course, a Hummer, you know, I mean, I think some of them are electric now, but obviously this one wasn't because they had five
Yeah, they're filling their
gallon
colostomy bags with gasoline at the pump, you know, to get an extra few miles in their Hummer on their way to getting some chemotherapy because they're not right with Satoshi. Get right with Satoshi and you can avoid all this.
Well, this Hummer exploded, right?
Of course. Well, gasoline is highly flammable.
But that's Dogecoin bag holders. That's like them like blowing up on the road to Satoshi, essentially. It's
Right.
just like,
Doge is like putting bags of, you know, baggies of gas on your oven and then deciding to bake a cake, see what happens, you know? And but I guess the path to redemption and salvation is littered with the corpses of stupid Doge buyers.
Yes.
I hate to say it because it sounds nasty, but if the road to salvation is littered with the bodies of these idiots, so be it. We're not, you know, I follow Matt Odell. I follow American Huddle. I follow the toxic maximalists, and they would agree. As a matter of fact, I'm quoting from them. We have no more patience. If this lunatic wants to blow himself up with fake carbon credits and try to fly to Mars and start civilization anew with his mom, then I can't stop it.
nope. He's got to get right with Satoshi. Again, so, you know, fiat money makes these people stupid. They end up in Dogecoin, putting bags of Dogecoin in their back of their Hummer and blowing up. And, you know, they FOMO'd in. Like, that's the thing. It's like that person FOMO'd into this like fake shortage of gasoline and blew up their car. And like what was the point of that whole exercise, right? It was like stupid.
It's a round trip to incineration.
Yeah, but that's the, with the interventions, the nonstop interventions and all these fake credits, like what I'm going to read some of them again. There's RINs, RINS, ZEV, LCFS, RECs, like with all these interventions and all of these nonstop quantitative easing and all the other programs, TARP, I don't know what else there was. Like there were so many programs to bail out the whole system.
And they all have these fancy acronyms.
But they encourage people to be so stupid as to fill plastic container, Tupperware bowls and put them in the back seat of their Hummer and blow it up.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Like that's our financial system. That's our banking system. That's our economy right now.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when monks used to douse themselves with gasoline and set themselves on fire to protest the Vietnam War. Now we've got Karen in an SUV dousing herself with gasoline and setting herself on fire because she's FOMOing into Doge. That's how pathetic this society has become. It's really sad. Honey, where are we going? It looks like we're taking a break. Are we going to the interview now?
Yes, it's time to go to the interview.
Who are we interviewing?
We're talking to Crypto Mags because she has spent 10 years prior to Bitcoin. She spent 10 years in that whole environmentalist movement and carbon credits and stuff like that. So she could explain this. And she's a Bitcoiner and agrees that Elon Musk is a dope. And that's the polite word for YouTube.
How do you spell dope? DOGE.
All right. Time now to turn to Crypto Mags over there in Canada. And, Crypto Mags, she used to basically work in the energy and carbon market. So she can contribute quite a lot to this. It was Alex Gladstein, our guest in the last episode of Orange Pill Podcast, who recommended we contact you to deal, to answer some of these questions about this FUD coming from Elon Musk. And welcome to Orange Pill Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Right. A recent article by Verity Verdict, Paul Veradaket, he wrote, he pointed out that there was a Forbes article back in May 31, 1999. And the Forbes article pointed out, dig more coal. The PCs are coming and the internet is going to burn a lot of coal. It said that it was a pound of coal to create, package, store, and move 2 megabytes of data, apparently. Is this the equivalent of what we're talking about with Bitcoin?
That sounds actually very familiar from what we've seen from Forbes, Wall Street Journal, other publications, mainstream publications that are crying about Bitcoin's massive energy use. And there's a lot of misconceptions that Bitcoin uses coal primarily for mining, which is untrue.
Right. So, go over the reasons why you think the top 3 reasons why you believe Bitcoin is not wasting energy.
Okay, so number 1, when we think about energy, this whole idea of waste is, I think, a misconception. Bitcoin provides tremendous value. It's providing settlement assurances similar to FedWire. Bitcoin is also providing, daily transactions, buying coffees on the Lightning Network. And also it's a sovereign unseizable money for many in poor and developing countries that are, and I'm sure Alex Gladstein touched on this, that just don't have access or could be cut off from the global financial system. And then lastly, about, I think it's 20% or 25% of Americans are unbanked or underbanked. They cannot get access to banking services. So even in developing countries, people have access. So Bitcoin provides that savings account for anyone. Anyone can participate, including, typically it's more marginalized segments of the population, whether it's Black communities, Hispanic, so that they're traditionally left out. So it's not wasted. It provides a very valuable service. So that's number 1. Number 2, it's actually using a lot of resources, waste resources. And I think this is tremendous part of what Bitcoin's value is. So when we think about waste, we think about traditionally garbage, and yes, there's actually miners that are looking to reduce landfill. For example, tires, taking the energy from those. And so that's just, one kind of crazy application that some people might look at. But when we think of more traditional kind of waste, we think of heat. We use so many gigawatts of energy to provide space heating, to provide process heat. And a lot of times that heat that is taken from miners could be repurposed, whether that's to grow vegetables like Genesis is doing in Nordic countries, Genesis mining, whether that's to provide space heating or industrial heating like Mint Green is currently doing, to boiling the oceans to provide sea salt on Vancouver Island, or whiskey. So that it's very valuable energy that is not actually being wasted, that's being put to good use. And then on another part, if you think about the oil and gas sector, which traditionally has, a big environmental GHG footprint, typically when you extract oil and gas, there is natural gas deposits on top of the oil. And so that typically just gets emitted out. It's not captured because it's not economical to catch it, and it's usually burned, but that energy can be captured instead to mine Bitcoin. So I think those are important pieces to keep in mind. And one more really important part is, our electricity grid has really been centralized for so long. It's similar to the banking system. We have these large generating units, huge nuclear plant in Ontario that's responsible for 50% of the base load power. We have coal plants, natural gas plants. And so our infrastructure for so long has been built up around large cities and large electricity generators. But as we're transitioning to a low carbon economy and more distributed resources come online, whether that's batteries, whether that's renewables, our electricity system is changing, and the transmission and distribution lines that so long, have been built a certain way around the centralized system, they can't necessarily always transmit the new renewables power that's coming online. So we call this transmission constraint, for example. So what Bitcoin mining is doing is it's providing a load, as in something that takes energy and can pay for that energy in parts where maybe renewables can't be accessed yet or transmitted to a city center. So, and I'm seeing this in Texas, and it's incredible how there is, as far as I'm aware of at the moment, 2 gigawatts of new miners coming online that will be primarily using renewable power. So that's both wind, that's solar, and some of those are coming from China, which some people, do find that there's a lot of coal-powered electricity miners that are using coal, which is another separate issue, which is not necessarily the case that they're all coal. But the point is, we are shifting towards renewable sources, and that's no different than the current industry. So I worked with heavy industry, multinational companies, steel, cement, energy intense, carbon intense industries. And the biggest factor for them was, energy costs, because energy is a cost and then carbon is a cost, right? They're both cost centers. And these industries see where the Global Climate Accord is going towards, phase out of carbon intense feedstocks. And so they have been transitioning over time towards renewables, towards biomass-based fuels, and processes that just aren't as carbon intensive. And that's very similar to what we're seeing now in the mining space. We're seeing this transition towards low carbon.
Right. So, as you point out, the Bitcoin incentivizes a transition to renewables by the inherent economics of Bitcoin and the portability of it and the ability to get off these grids. So it seems almost like one of the greener industries in the world right now. What I don't understand about this climate FUD, this fear and uncertainty and doubt that spread, is that it's almost like newspeak from 1984. It's patently false. It's patently the absolute opposite of the truth. What is being said about Bitcoin is demonstrably a lie. And so when I think about the world today and I think about the politics in the world today, I think the problem is that the entrenched banking system, political system, and carbon industry is scared.
I agree with that, Max. And I think what we're seeing is something very similar to played out around the electric car, because electric cars have been around for a few decades. And it seems like there was a concerted effort by the oil and gas industry to kind of squash that industry down because it would harm the bottom line. And in some ways, it's reminiscent to what's happening right now. Because fundamentally, what I see, I think Satoshi Nakamoto essentially created a whole new heavy industry category. I do think mining is a bit different than just something like a data center because, yes, it's very similar in that it uses energy and it's computing, but they're very different economics around mining, and that's kind of going to incentivize different business models. And so what I think is very frustrating to me is that we have this whole new industrial sector that's growing, that has incentives that I am seeing because I've spoken to renewable farms who are actually interested in accessing and working with miners because they see it as there's someone that is willing to pay for our power. So it's economical for us to either build or expand because we can model into our forecast that someone will pay a minimum price, and therefore it makes sense to build out this facility. And so, but what I'm frustrated about is, with this new rise of this industrial sector, the market is having trouble because there are folks like New York, which are now putting in a moratorium potentially around mining because they don't understand this new industry very well. And some of them, including New York, are actually basing it based on sort of false premonitions that, Bitcoin each transaction uses more energy than a house, which is very, very flawed. A household over a month, sorry.
Right. And of course, New York was very anti-Bitcoin with the Bit license and other overtly political acts to protect the Wall Street monopoly. I mean, that's clearly what's going on here. The electric car is a good example. The electric car was tried and it was popular, but it was squashed by the competitors. We've seen it over and over again. Buckminster Fuller had an electric car going back many years. It was not allowed really to develop. But let me ask you about some kind of back of the envelope numbers here, and tell me if this is anywhere near correct. My understanding from my cursory reading of tweets is that there's about 160,000 terawatt of energy per year on Earth being used. Is that a fair estimate?
That is a fair estimate. I believe you are quoting Galaxy's Digital's new report.
I could very well be doing so. And 60% of that is wasted.
That could be accurate. I mean, for example, just the act of transmission across transmission lines takes a lot of energy before it gets to the source, especially if we have a big plant in one location and, a city in another.
Right. So energy is really hard to move. In Africa, for example, they have to build out a whole grid and it's all diesel and it's loss of energy and it creates eco problems, etc. Okay. So
and a lot of times you're wasting heat. If you're doing an industrial process, there is a lot of heat that's vented.
Right. That's flaring, another big waste. So 160,000 terawatt per year. And Bitcoin at the moment uses 150 terawatt. So my calculation says that's 1/10 of 1% of global energy is going into Bitcoin right now.
It's not a lot.
No. Okay. So let me continue then. So let me ask you this. Wouldn't it be correct that if Bitcoin succeeds in its mission statement, if we were to look at the Genesis block, essentially of killing central banks, which are the heart of the fiat money world, which also feed into the petrodollar, which is incredibly wasteful and incredible warlike. There's a lot of wars associated with that, which are incredibly carbon intensive. No one's a bigger carbon user than the Pentagon. It's something like $250 million a day to gas up the tanks and the jets and to keep everybody fed. So
and that's just one country too.
Right. So if in fact the central banks are essentially euthanized by Bitcoin and all the associated member banks and Wall Street banks, the fiat money is hyper Bitcoinization becomes real. You have fiat money is out of business, and that waste number suddenly is reduced dramatically. So my question is this: if we went to a global Bitcoin standard, that 160,000 terawatt hour per year energy use, if you got rid of all the waste, which is tied directly to central banks, we could cut that number down, let's call it 50%.
Assuming that the U.S. Central Bank and the petrodollar system is responsible for 50%, then yes.
Well, and globally, I'm just saying globally, you've got 8 or 9 major central banks. You've got, in the fiat world, you've got hundreds of trillions of dollars, of fiat money floating around. You've got a derivative. For example, for every barrel of oil, there's like 60,000 barrels of paper oil or derivative oil, right? And
I would say, yeah, I agree. Do you mean the entire oil-based system? Like if we phase out oil, or
I'm not saying phase. I'm saying that the derivatives that float on top of the oil business, and the derivatives that float on top of the fiat money business, right? There's a quadrillion and 2 quadrillion in derivatives that they're all based on an underlying asset called the fiat money, which is printed ad infinitum, and which creates waste. All the waste comes from, like, I can print all the money I want. I can go to war any day I want to because I can print all the money I need to go to war.
I would adjust your numbers a little bit, only because I have seen how much heavy industry, for example, uses as part of the global economy. So steel, cement, some of the most carbon intense industries, they do use a lot. So I think while I do agree with you that the petrodollar system, the military uses large amounts of carbon, I think 50% might be a bit of a reach. Maybe something closer to 20% is where I would argue. But I would add to that, though, it's not just, the central banking system and everything that you mentioned that comes along with it. There's also financial services and the legacy banking system that we could add to it. There is everything that comes because of gold. We use gold as a store of value. So there's things we can add to it to use that number.
Okay, so my point, and we're using very broad numbers here, admittedly, but my point is that the energy usage, this 160,000 terawatt hour per year, could be dramatically reduced if we went to a Bitcoin standard. And that's a point that people like Elon Musk are not making, don't understand it, or he's conflicted in some way and he's not saying it. It's something that Jack Dorsey, I'm surprised, isn't talking about, because he just came out and said, well, Square's not going to be buying more Bitcoin until we address this climate issue, right? These guys, I mean, I'm sorry, but they don't really understand what they're talking about when they're talking about Bitcoin, do they?
I totally agree with you. And it was very interesting to see that Elon kind of focused in on the transactions piece, which is, again, not the right part to focus on, because mining at the moment, miners are mining because they're looking for that coin-based reward, the Bitcoin reward, and they don't even have to necessarily add transactions. It's not a smart, business decision not to, but they could theoretically. And then I think how his understanding of transactions happens. Again, he's not thinking about liquid. He's not thinking about lightning. Not thinking about like even the wrapping Bitcoin on Ethereum. There's so many other elements involved. So I think his thinking is not correct there. And then one more point around that you raise a good point around the petrodollar. If we think about the types of feedstocks that the military uses, even driving gold or cash around, this is carbon fuels. So you're using petroleum, oil, natural gas. Whereas, like we mentioned, we see Bitcoin more and more so moving towards renewable resources, moving towards providing district heating, for example. So remove and a lot of heating can take fossil fuel sources, whether you're at you're like a business, you're a farm, and so there is also that fuel switching element is as we electrify.
I also
We're electrifying the financial system and central banks.
We're electrifying the financial system and central banks. I like that. And somebody was pointing out that those Abrams tanks that the U.S. uses they have to keep them running all night long, 24 hours a day, apparently.
Yeah.
And they're running all night long in Afghanistan, and it takes like 5 gallons every 1 minute. But in terms of, I love that term that you came up with, that Satoshi Nakamoto invented a new heavy industry. And it's one just filled with so much innovation. It's just remarkable. I mean, you mentioned the legacy energy system, no innovation there. You mentioned the banking system, no innovation there. It takes days in the United States at the heart of that legacy system to transfer money from one person to another. The only innovation you see is in fraud and how to defraud other people, right? But the innovation and that it's driving towards lower cost. But the thing that's just so fascinating to me over the past year or so is like these companies that are capturing the flared gas, the decentralization, the fact that you could see the distribution that will happen because of that, because of the innovation around energy and mining, that you're going to see decentralization of the mining industry, but also wealth creation. It'll be places like Siberia, remote places of Chile. Like it'll be all over the world in very remote areas where, so there's stranded energy out there, and Bitcoin will capture that and provide, like, it'll provide more like justice, right? Economic justice.
Yeah, and wealth. And I think Alex Gladstein pointed out there's a group out of Africa that are mining. They have a container and they're mining something that was a little bit more stranded. The energy was stranded. And, that is providing economic benefit just to that little community that traditionally would probably very likely be left out of the economic system.
Right. So we were talking in the first half as well about all these the renewable energy credit markets, which I think you had some experience in this. And
a little bit. I did work on renewable fuel standards about a decade ago. Different jurisdictions have different things, but the principle remains the same. It's primarily to provide an incentive to shift the economy towards low carbon fuels. And so we were talking before more about the grid, and renewable energy credits can include like replacing fossil fuels, so liquid fuels, for example, through biomass-based fuels.
And yet, Bitcoin doesn't need any. I guess the subsidy is the block, right? That every new block, but that's not taking from anybody else, right? Like these credit systems, like we went through a whole list. There's REC, RINs, ZEVs, LCFS. Like these are all these credits, which Tesla is actually earning a lot of money from. Yes. And yet, as you point out, like these electric vehicles are decades old. Like the technology is not new. None of his ideas are new. It's just now there's some money allocated to that. Whereas it just seems like the Bitcoin incentivizes all of that behavior, but even more without having, because there's no government, there's no agency like appointing the winners of these.
Exactly. And that is the point. The government tends to, at the worst part, elect specific winners, for example, a specific company, at a broader scale, specific industry sectors. So when you look at the government, they take from two pockets if they're distributing money. It's the tax base, or it can be like the rate base. And so things like carbon taxes, right, they get redistributed throughout the economy. And oftentimes it is the government that chooses how to distribute that. And so Bitcoin, what's really interesting about Bitcoin is it's so eloquent in that the economic system is built in. Bitcoin mining is cutthroat. Yes, it's incredibly profitable right now. There's been some, the issues around getting ASICs haven't helped. Traditionally hash rate would be a lot higher if we could, produce as many ASICs, but it hasn't caught up. And so, but during something like a bear market, the lowest cost energy providers win, or sorry, those that can access the lowest energy cost win. And because I said carbon is a cost center, if you were using natural gas, for example, Hut 8 was using natural gas, and they've in some ways suffered from it, because not only has that natural gas prices gone up from a few years ago, there are carbon costs that are adding dollars per megawatt, and it's not an insignificant cost to their bottom line. So so miners will go towards lowest cost energy, and increasingly so that is renewables, and also which don't have that carbon cost. Now, what's interesting too is I just recently spoke to a hosting facility that is setting up in Texas. They will be hosting miners using renewable power. And here's the interesting part: because renewables are generating renewable energy credits, those will be passed on to miners. So they're benefiting too from that same subsidy that Elon Musk hopes to get. But yes.
Right. So I wanted to pick up on talk about more about carbon credits. So Max and Stacy have been covering carbon credits now for almost 20 years, since the inception of carbon credits. And, here's the story. So it was decided about 20 years ago that, what the powers that be are going to do is they've got this carbon emissions problem. So, everything in the neoliberal model, everything in the post-Reagan Thatcher era gets financialized, and we're going to create a financialization of carbon, and we're going to trade the carbon, and they're going to go on exchanges, and we're going to have credits, and we're going to have markets, and markets are infallible, and it's going to be price discovery, and it's going to solve everything. Okay. And they release these into an environment, probably the worst environment in 500 years, the most banking fraud in history, the most scams by bankers in history, the most market rigging in history. I remember Tony Blair was caught, dealing in fictitious carbon credits, and his whole crowd. There's been enormous fraud, like there is enormous fraud in the entire fiat system. Just making it financialized within a corrupt system is going to end up with garbage. So when Elon Musk talks about these carbon products and carbon credits, forget about boiling the oceans. He's boiling his soul. The man is a menace to be buying into this. Who's pulling his strings? I don't know. It could be his mom. But this doesn't work. Carbon credits are a scam. Full stop. Because they're within the system that is structurally, provably, patently a scam. So how can you have something within a scam that's not a scam? My question to you, Crypto Mags.
Ooh, that's a tough one, because so I have some opinions. For example, carbon tax, which is what Elon is asking for. I think if you are going to at least put in a carbon price, I do think a carbon trading system is better. But I agree with you. They have been implemented poorly. Originally in Europe, they weren't priced right. Industry lobbies very heavily on government, and a lot of times, what government would like to do because fundamentally the reason why government is trying to put in a price of carbon is because carbon emissions are considered an externality, and businesses don't incorporate that. So they're trying to make it more expensive in some way to use carbon heavy resources. And one way is obviously price, because, figuring that they will shift away.
Yeah. So I get it. But let's look at ExxonMobil for a second. The Exxon Valdez disaster, Exxon, an energy company, they were on the hook for billions. So Blythe Masters invented the credit default swap to insulate them from that liability. Mm-hmm. Just created, financial engineered out of her butt, complete and utter nonsense. And now they made that magically go away. We're dealing with psychopaths in the financial markets who have unlimited access to fiat money. So unless we're going to address the fiat money problem, and Jack Dorsey doesn't talk about it, Elon Musk doesn't talk about it, Novogratz doesn't talk about it, none of these guys are talking about it. And it's a tragedy, and it's a sad comment on this Bitcoin industry that the leaders, so-called thought leaders, are so cowardly that they refuse to go after the base problem. I'm sorry to get so upset, but we've been talking about these energy credits for 20 years. There's no carbon tax. There's no carbon financialization that's run by a centralized government that's not just a handout and a bailout for the same guys. Musk,
Jack Dorsey, Novogratz, they're all getting the bailouts, and it's disgusting.
But what's interesting there is let's just take away the carbon credit for a second, because you are trying to incentivize something. Government is still incentivizing the petroleum industry, right? There are a number of different subsidies, and part of that is because the oil and gas industry has gotten so strong around their lobby that this continues. So even if you were to just take away that, that might further help with biomass and other renewables get into their place. So I think, when you get angry, others get similarly angry around the whole market has been distorted, whether it's, fueling the petrodollar, whether it's fueling the petroleum industry, or it's picking winners and losers, for example, through these renewable credits and selecting which industry and which specific clean tech should be the one to win. Because I actually do agree with you. It's very hard to pick the winning technology. And a lot of times folks in government don't spend the time to fully dive into a tech and know for a fact that this will win. The market can decide long term what tech will win the best.
Well, can you blame the Bitcoin industry, those who are diehard maximalists, for taking the position that they're simply not going to listen to the government and they're going to secede effectively with Bitcoin? You can't confiscate it. It's the best technology. It's the monetary perfection that can save the human race. So why would we even spend 5 seconds listening to a bureaucrat? And you use the word, it might. It might. It might. You know what? A lot of things might happen. But with Bitcoin in here today, now, we don't need to speculate about what might happen. We know what is happening. I
think I'll wrap it up here with this point is that I think we're going to see, as you point out, the fiat system is filled with individuals who can be lobbied. Bitcoin doesn't have anybody who could be lobbied. All the shitcoins have somebody who could be lobbied. Bitcoin doesn't have anybody you can lobby. People are trying to get the miners to, activate Taproot. You have to you don't know who the people are. You can't go to them, show up at the door, buy them lunch and hope they're going to buy, agree to your opinion or give you some money or whatever. So the fact that we can't lobby anybody in Bitcoin is what will make it work. But also that, Max and I are here in North Carolina where there's no gasoline, right? No petrol in any of the stations because of a single point of failure. The pipeline that provides 50% of the gasoline for the East Coast, gone. It's out. And of course, panic sets in. So everybody's panic buying and, filling up their plastic bags filled with gasoline. But Bitcoin, as you mentioned, Texas as well, you saw that the energy grid go down and Bitcoin
and miners provided a service there.
It's going to decentralize. It's going to, if Adam O was great at this, at talking about how it's going to push out the energy grid all over to little locations. You're going to have little solar, people are going to have solar on their homes.
People are heating their homes, heating their hot tubs right now with miners. There is Sato, a company out of France. They're building a water heater that can be powered by an ASIC and help you heat your home. We're seeing all sorts of innovation. And I think that's the fantastic part. And honestly, we see all these environmentalists, news reporters saying one thing, but being here on the ground, I am seeing the innovation. And you're right, they don't care because guess what? It makes economic sense to sell my heat. It makes economic sense to go to renewables. It makes economic sense to partner with a legacy industry and find an industrial synergy. So meanwhile, they're crying over here, but at one point they're going to blink and this whole new industry will have risen and it's going to have a strong foothold.
Yeah. And
excuse me. I'm so excited. I'm choking.
And the thing is, it's good old fashioned capitalism. What's driving that innovation but greed? All these individuals all over the world want to get those coins, and that's what they're seeking. Whereas that other system you're talking about with all those acronyms that Tesla's earning, all those carbon credit schemes and all that sort of stuff, all that, the entire financial grid, it's all based on lobbying individuals who create Cantillon effects and other injustices.
Yeah, I think we're all agreed on that.
I think we are.
Yep.
And I'm summing it up again.
I think you've done an excellent job summing it up. I'm so excited. I'm choking. And my blood is boiling. When we talk about these carbon credits, it just reminds me of 20 years of the chicanery from these Wall Street carbon traders. It's like, oh my God.
It wasn't ever basically there was never a market. Basically what it ended up being is Tony Blair. Yeah. You're talking about the European scheme. Remember, we were there because, industry was like, oh my God, this is going to kill us. So what did it end up being? A massive mega handout to them. They made billions, like the dirtiest industries. They were given for free all of these carbon credits. So then they dumped and crashed the price of carbon. And the whole thing crashed. It's gone. It's like basically dead.
And you're right. And I've seen this firsthand too, because when you have people that control, they can be lobbied and appealed to. And I've seen this play out in Ontario, where if you have heavy industry, they'll come in and say, hey, we've got 5,000 workers. If you want us not to shut down and move to another jurisdiction, like we're going to need assistance meeting this carbon plan. So maybe some of that money goes towards that plant, and it's not a market-based system.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all in agreement. We don't want to make Max choke.
No, we're totally in agreement. That's all very interesting. I mean, the bottom line is that what we're saying is that this week's FUD about carbon emissions and how it relates to Bitcoin is just that. It's just FUD. It's nonsense. It's patently false. It's easily provably false. And those who are spreading it are really doing a discredit to themselves and everybody else, because there is a solution. It's called Bitcoin.
And I think two last points to kind of add to that. The first one is, it's really interesting where people kind of focus on it. They tend to narrow in on one aspect. So right now they're focusing on energy use or carbon emissions, but they're looking at very much, for example, at emissions from a point source. You have to look at the broader scale. So if you look at even, producing some of the renewable, whether it's turbines or solar panels or electric batteries, where do you get those resources? Right? What kind of environmental destruction happens? No technology is perfect. There will be, pros and cons and trade-offs, whether that's a strip mine, whether that is, mercury poisoning because you're extracting coal. Like every single industry will have a different type of impact. And sometimes it's very hard to balance emission versus reducing fishery habitat or something else. And so I think people tend to focus in on one element and not see the whole broader impact. And that has been really challenging because, people come back at Elon and say, well, producing what you produce doesn't have zero environmental footprint either. So, it's really hard to fault him with that. And then secondly, I mean, like even the whole Mars exploration, how many rockets, how much fuel does that cost? But the important part is, sure, it uses fuel, but I think a lot of people would say that has value. And that's very similar because, what Bitcoin provides is the next technological breakthrough when it comes to transmitting value over time, over space. So similarly, Elon is involved in a whole new technology. So I think it's kind of frustrating because we're also building the next generation tech when it comes to finance. So it's surprising that we're less aligned these days.
Right. And where can people find you? And, what are you doing in the Bitcoin space? Like what sort of research and stuff are you doing?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, crypto_mags. I also consult with MetaMesh. More recently, I've been working with the co-founders of HUD 8 around a mining project, not related to HUD 8, it's a separate project. But yeah, always happy and open to consulting, and I'll be writing a lot more articles just to counter some of this FUD.
Oh, good. That's what we need.
That sounds good, yeah.
Otherwise, Max will be choking today.
Well, I see Nick Carter has been writing brilliantly.
I know, somebody needs to help.
Yeah, but he's like like I can't keep doing it. If these waves of imbecility are never going to end and no one's going to listen to actual empirical reasoning, what can I do? But we have such a dumbed down population that's filling plastic bags full of gasoline and stacking them in the trunk of their car and smoking a cigarette and driving next to a fireworks plant. It's like, what are you going to do? The Darwin Awards are real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad Galaxy published their recent analysis comparing the different, the financial sector compared to Bitcoin. I know Square and Kathy's shop have been doing more and more research into renewables. So we'll get there. But I think people have to recognize that it takes a lot of time to do proper work, but it's so easy for them to do silly headlines. And it's really, I think, more about catching that headline or hating on Bitcoin because they missed out. And I don't think it really comes down to energy in the end.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We could tell you're really smart because you got your block clock working, and unlike us who are unable to. So
absolutely. I'm envious. Look at that block clock. It's actually working. Wow.
It's on Musk time.
All right. That was Crypto Mags. That was fun. It was appropriate to have been brought to you by our sponsor, the sunexchange.com/orange pill. And here is the ad from them.
Sun Exchange is the world's first peer-to-peer solar leasing platform. Earn Bitcoin solar power in communities in Africa and be part of the new world economy. Visit thesunexchange.com/orange pill and start monetizing sunshine today.
Okay, so Max.
Yeah.
What is your biggest takeaway from our interview?
Everything Crypto Mag said was spot on. Obviously done her homework. And I'm glad that the stuff that I was saying and quoting and tweeting about was actually based on something factual, which was unusual for me.
Yeah, she recognized it. It's good that you didn't present it as your own research.
No, I would never do that. But I read things so quickly that, particularly numbers, being a Wall Street broker for so many years, I can scan pages and pages of numbers and have a short-term memory enough to cause some damage. But nevertheless, I thought the underlying theme was very important to get across here, that the energy FUD relating to Bitcoin is absurdly misplaced. And those who are pushing it are either, I don't want to get all
So you can't lobby Bitcoin. That's important to understand.
Yeah.
The fact that she mentioned that Satoshi Nakamoto had basically invented a new heavy industry is awesome.
Yeah.
But just look at the oil and gas sector, or look at the financial sector, look at the banking sector, look at Wall Street, look at all these old industries filled with crusty, entropic old people.
Yeah. It's interesting because people say the Bitcoin space, but it's actually the Bitcoin industry. It's like you're in the industry or you're not in the industry. It's big. Bitcoin is a big industry. It's a heavy industry. And it's
big Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I
big
like
Bitcoin.
that.
And it's, rewiring, reinventing, replacing all the legacy system. And what is more valuable than Bitcoin? Nothing. Bitcoin is the most valuable asset in the world, in the history of the world, not because it's absolutely scarce, but because of the rise in consciousness that it is engineering. The global unconscious is being fused into the Bitcoin singularity. And I think that point is still largely missed by even those who are big in the industry. They don't really understand yet what's coming in terms of the Bitcoin singularity. And it's frustrating when people like an Elon Musk, who ostensibly has enough brain cells to launch a rocket, but apparently it stops at that point where you have to have a more comprehensive view of things. He's not a generalist. He's not a Renaissance man. He's more of he's a tinkerer and a very, engineer, and he likes to play around with rockets and stuff. But he's not a very big thinker. He's not a thinker. He's more of a geek.
I think, what was that old quote about show me who pays a person and I'll show you what their incentives are. So if Tesla's earning their money from these shit coins, these shit credits, let's call them, from the government and various agencies, then his shareholders are probably complaining, and they see this new program, RINS, that they're introducing another way to make some billions to make up for the loss of the other one, ZEVs, that he's losing on. So yeah, he's got to find a new source of income stream. It's all well and good having the Bitcoin on your treasury, but what to do for an income stream in order to stack more sats? Well, you need to defraud the taxpayer in some other way, but you can't lobby Bitcoin, and that's a problem.
Yeah, he's
for him.
he's incredibly cynical. At the end of the day, it's a cynical way to do business. So just ripping off taxpayers and committing accounting fraud and engaging in fraudulent tax credit behavior is not a good look for a guy who wants to come across as something other than a charlatan.
Well, you know, the company has done some good stuff, but he's messed up here. And that's the thing, is like the fact that when you mention big Bitcoin, I like that phrase, but it is not like big ag or big finance or big accounting or big telecoms. Like those tend to like have oligopolies of 2 to 4 majors that control the entirety of the industry. And that's the thing about Bitcoin, is it incentivizes decentralization and mass distribution of power. Elon Musk is the richest fiat person in the world, or he was for brief periods of time in the past year. And the richest man in the world, like as rich as some of those robber barons now, even with, adjusted for inflation. And yet he couldn't impose his will upon Bitcoin. So
No, and for a narcissist, that's really hard to deal with. Richest guy in the world, but you can't change the protocol. So they throw a hissy fit, get on the ground, stomp their feet. Mommy comes around and gives them a pat on their butt and says, "Go play with an altcoin, son." And the results are categorically catastrophic and petulant little crybaby. And it's sad to see a man melt and have a nervous breakdown publicly like this. Sad, very sad. But there you go.
Right. And so I guess that's welcome everybody from Timcast IRL. So all you newbies joining from there, there were thousands and thousands of you that subscribed to our youtube.com/orange pill. And we welcome you here. And of course, if you want to stack sats and start climb aboard this relentless optimism of big Bitcoin, well, you go to swanbitcoin.com/orange pill, and you can start dollar cost averaging. You could smash buy, you could do whatever you want, join our Telegram group, and you'll find a community of 24,000 people who are equally relentlessly optimistic, with an occasional breakdown every once in a while. It happens, right? It happens with people. And, join that group, t.me/orange pill. Max, do you have anything to say before we go?
Tupac was a Bitcoiner.
Tupac was?
Yeah.
How do you know this?
And didn't he talk about it? No, I was thinking about another guy.
Nipsey Hussle?
Nipsey Hussle, that's it.
Tupac was murdered like decades ago.
What was that? Because when you mentioned big Bitcoin, I thought of Biggie Big.
Biggie Smalls.
Biggie Smalls.
Like all the Gen Z and millennials are going to be mocking us now, calling us boomers. And
I just messed up 3 rappers' names in one sentence. No wonder they don't let me on Black Billionaire Club on Clubhouse.
Lamar's going to be like...
Lamar's going to like that. We don't want that honky cracker knucklehead on our Clubhouse channel. He can't even remember anybody's name. No, we don't want him. See, this is the problem. Oh, well.
Now Bitcoin Chris is also going to be like, "What? I'm not doing this listening room anymore." If this guy doesn't know his rapper from
he understands that there's a bigger thing at play here in the Bitcoin universe. He's down with Satoshi. We're down with Satoshi. And that's the main thing. Okay, you get a few names wrong here and there along the way, but the main point is to be down, be right with Satoshi, and that's where Bitcoin Chris, he's a thought leader.
Well, with that, we're going to hop on over to the listening room on Clubhouse, and hopefully you haven't driven everybody away by confusing Tupac and Nipsey Hussle. At least it wasn't like, I don't know, what's a really lame, like Frank Sinatra kind of guy, like Frank Sinatra.
Frank Zappa?
No, Frank Zappa was cool.
Oh, I thought you meant Frank Sinatra. You get those two mixed up. You've got a medley from hell. Strangers in the... I don't know. What's a Frank Zappa song? Can't think of one off the top of my head.
Okay, Boomer. It's time to go.
You know, he was a key seminal figure in the history of rock, Frank Zappa. I can't think of a single song though. It wasn't like Daisies at Noon or Guacamole on My Bicycle or something. Hey, Your Honor, I'm innocent, but I'll take that side order of French fries by Frank Zappa. Mix that with Frank Sinatra. Strangers in the fries, exchanging sauces. I asked for ketchup, not something spicy. I'm not Frank Zappa. I'm Frank Sinatra. Ah, isn't that one of his songs? It's what about the White Album from the Beatles, and then there was the Black Album from a famous person I can't remember.
Oh my God.
And they came together, and it was by Danger Mouse, created the Gray Album.
I can't believe you remember Danger Mouse's name.
Yeah,
At least
Danger
that's an
Mouse.
advancement.
Yeah.
But with that, Frank Zappa meets Frank Sinatra, you know, we're out of ketchup packets as well. There's a shortage of those.
Yeah, I just saw that there's another shortage on rental cars.
But, you know, that's the price signal is like those little ketchup packages are free, right? There should be a price on them. And maybe
The
you wouldn't
price
have
discovery
shortages.
should be on those little packages of ketchup, maybe 5 Satoshis or something. You know, if you go to McDonald's and you say, hey, where's my ketchup? And they're like, hey, give me 5 Satoshis and I'll give you your ketchup. You're like, okay, dude, bingity bangity bong, you know, bada bing, bada bing, as Tony Soprano would say.
You could use like Jack
Talk about
Mahler's
Frank
lightning
Sinatra.
strike.
Use lightning to pay for your Satoshis on the ketchup. And they just go great with fries, you know, but they're not keto because it's high fructose corn syrup, like 60, 70%.
Yes,
That
gross.
stuff will kill you right quick. Don't eat corn syrup, kids. Okay. You sniffing glue is safer than eating high fructose corn syrup. Take it from me, Frank Zappa Sinatra.
Okay.
Sniff glue, not corn syrup.
Oh my God. We have to go.
We
I'm sorry.
do?
I'm sorry about this. I'm going to put the
What
little
about
white
Swan?
jacket on him. I said swanbitcoin.com
Did you?
/orange pill.
I didn't hear you.
You don't listen to me.
Not-
Maybe you should.
I'm married. Strangers in the night, exchanging sauces. I didn't ask for this. I wanted a small apple pie and some ice cream too. Where's my ketchup? I don't know. It could be every night with you. Swan on Bitcoin is truly fantastic. You can stats there and get sats back if you just go to the great and great Swan. Bitcoin.com /orange pill.